Hello, I'm Jody Wolf, and you're watching Expoz. It is November 17, 2017. It's 1:04 a.m. Birmingham. Topic: I want to go ahead and recap what I tried to hurry through on the last blog about what if Yellowstone erupted. And I don't know if these figures are based on the BP Earth Watch and how big they said the actual lava dome under, not the dome, but the lava amount under the cauldron that covered all those states. If it's that big, then it could be 100 to 1,000 times larger than the figures I'm about to give you on the last major earthquake that affected the earth, which was 74,000 years ago. Starting out, we're going to go to Lassen Peak in California in 1915. And at Lassen Peak, I hope I got it, would fill about 1,000 Olympic swimming pools. That's the amount of material that came out. And then you step up to another in Wilson Butte, California, and the amount that came out from it would be about 5,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools of material. That's big, but that ain't nothing yet. Then you go to, let me move my screen here. Then you go to the next, which is Pinatubo, and that was in 1991. That's one I remember. 1.25 mile of material came out of that volcano. And I remember the people running down the street in this major, looked like a monster in the sky. Well, then you go back to, oh, by the way, that was Pinatubo. 1.25 square miles. This is 1.25 square miles of material. Wow. And when St. Helens was only a quarter, less than a quarter square mile, because a kilometer equals a quarter of a square mile. So in Mount St. Helens, it shows that it was between 0.1 and up to 1 kilometer. So it's anybody's guess there on the exact amount. But then let's go to Long Valley Caldera, 760,000 years ago, 580 kilometers or 145 square miles of material erupting. And I skipped over one. I skipped over Yellowstone at Mesa Falls 1.3 million years ago. And that one was 70 square miles of material came out of Yellowstone. 70 square miles. Wow. Square mile is a 5,280 foot square in all directions. Up, left, right, everything. That's a square mile. So you had Yellowstone erupted 1.3 million years ago. That much. 70 square miles. Long Valley Caldera, as I mentioned, 760,000 years ago, 145 square miles. And I just took the kilometers out and I put miles in. Now, 2.1 million years ago, the Yellowstone Huckleberry Ridge volcano eruption. This was probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, on Earth at that time ever. Guys, that thing at Huckleberry Ridge, 612 square miles of material came out of the ground. 612 square miles of material. Look, none of this includes snow melt. So when you go back and look at Mount St. Helens in 1980, and you have less than a quarter of a square mile, way less, snow melt was probably 3 to 4 times more than the material that it expelled. So that's why it seems so massive and so big. Now let's go to Toba. And this was 74,000 years ago, 2,800 kilometers, or, wow, 700 square miles of material came out of that volcano eruption. 700 square miles. Can you imagine? And some say the next Yellowstone eruption from the cauldron there is big as the lava, the amount that's under the ground, up 27 to 35 to 40 miles deep, 27 in down another 15 miles. Wow. Could be 10 times larger, which would be 7,000 square miles of material would come out of the ground. That's what would make Mount St. Helens, I mean, yeah, if it were to go, that's why it would kill 100,000 plus people in our country. That's a massive amount of material coming out. It's got to land somewhere. And the fallout shows entire half of the United States being under feet of ash, several feet of ash, off the coast of California out into the Pacific, several feet of ash. And at the epicenter, no one can guess that. It would be major. Entire Wyoming would be covered in a half a mile of material. So that's why they're talking about, some people are saying this is going to happen. Maybe it will, but once again, that's a judgment. A judgment kills millions and millions and millions of people. And I don't know when the last true judgment was upon man in general. I don't know if it was the 4 of the 5 cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. I don't know. But when we have a God judgment, that's a judgment against the people. And millions die. We don't know how many there were in these 4 cities, but millions die. In our case, in this country, when the church is removed, only then will these judgments come. But the God judgment, he will allow other judgments, but his own judgment is the one that will destroy a quarter of everything there is. The natural judgments that was allowed to progress and to occur because of the earth pains or the pains within the earth. It's just like birth pains in a woman, they increased. And these pains are increasing as we go in time in our day. And that's why people are talking so much about this volcano. I don't expect I'll see it at all. I really don't. If it were to happen in a week, I don't think I would see it. The church would go before this happens. That's God judgment. Again, he had not appointed the church unto judgment. Now, when you want to take that into context and look at God's own chosen, 2/3 of the Jews will die. 1/3 of them will be saved in the end days. If 2/3 of the Jews will die, that's major judgment. And consider 100 million, 1/3 of the people in this country That's 200 million left. When you take 2/3 of the Jews, you have about 3 or 4 million left. Wow. That's the God judgment. They're big, but the church will not be here to see it. Either one. Jody Wolf Expoz.